one of the main reasons that I reached out to you is because we saw here in Business Insider, they had this interesting article about the ultra wealthy who fly private are costing average flyers who won't ever use private planes a lot of money. And it just goes through a laundry list of just kind of grumbles.
Yeah, so yeah, look, I read Business Insider, but this was a very biased article, and it was written by some think tank. It was written by an author and the whole article was based on the sole opinion of some guy out of Vermont who's got look, he's part of a environmentalist. It's an environmentalist. He's an activist in some way, shape, or form. I'm not sure which. There's a little bit of a socialist bent to it. There's a little bit of a green activist bent to it. And basically his conclusion was business aviation should die because it's just, it just supports the luxury market. Well, let's look at that. Let's look at that in a different way. And there's a lot of positives about business aviation.
Yeah, you went through a couple of great ones. I mean, you talked about, the tax component, because they specifically said, oh, they don't pay, enough taxes. You talked about how business and general aviation support the economy, how the airports are not always, subsidized, and the airports are providing opportunities and jobs, fuel, benefits to the community itself, the fact that people use it as a business tool, and then, of course, the environmental issues that are brought up a lot of the time usually are blown way out of proportion. And we're actually, from the business perspective, looking at carbon offsets and are really at the forefront for sustainable aviation fuel and things of that nature. So.
Yeah, well, look, let's just go through the list. One, business aviation supports about $300 billion in economic activity every year. So if I go by this guy's article, I go, okay, everybody in Savannah, Georgia that works for Gulfstream, let's just do your job. Let's just throw away your job. All 13,000 of you just sign up for employment tomorrow. Gulfstream and General Dynamics has done an amazing job in Savannah of creating a manufacturing facility that designs and engineers phenomenal airplanes. And when you think about the economic activity, Wichita, Kansas, Battle Creek, Michigan, Duncan Aviation, or Lincoln, Nebraska, Duncan Aviation. Or you think about Tamarack Aerospace out in Idaho that's developing winglets. And you think about all these companies that are on the periphery of business aviation, it's $300 billion of positive economic activity. These are good, high-paying, high-skilled, high-quality jobs, in interesting places. You think Savannah, Georgia. It's not known as the aircraft mecca of the world, but here's this company that's grown. Like when I worked there, I think it was 3,500 people, and now it's 13,000. Brunswick, Georgia. I think Melbourne, Florida. All these places, business aviation supports it. So that's one. There's a lot of high quality.
Mm-hmm. And those people are, like you, to your point, those people are paying into taxes as well.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like the industry just takes and takes and takes and takes. Like, just because what I don't like about articles like this, or even just like opinions when we don't have the back and forth discussion, is it negates the subtleties and the nuances of it. That's really important. And so no, I appreciate what you're saying.
I mean, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And you think about Cedar Rapids, Collins Aerospace up there. How many avionics engineers, live in Cedar Rapids? It supports the whole company. Collins Aerospace has built Cedar Rapids economy. I mean, it's huge. The second thing is look, with COVID, the airlines are the whole dynamic of the airlines is shifting. You're going to lose a lot of service to middle market cities, small middle market cities. And I did a search recently for a director of aviation for a Fortune 300 company. And as part of that search, I ran into a fellow who's the assistant director of aviation for a fleet. They've got two Citation XLSs. And those two airplanes support 50 manufacturing facilities around the country. And each one of those facilities is outside a range. They fly into rural airports. They're not within 2 hours of any major metropolitan area. And you think about, and oh, by the way, he goes, when we fly, we have 7 passengers on board. It's like, all right, 7 passengers on a Citation XLS, doing 4 stops to these rural towns around the country. Those businesses couldn't thrive. Those economy, those small cities or small towns, need that economic activity and the jobs that that company provides. Once again, business aviation is there to support it.
Yeah. And what was the point you brought up about the fact that some of these airports that don't support commercial flights, they're not necessarily supported by government funds.
No.
You mentioned like flying into, Falcon Jet. It's not cheap.
Yeah, well, Van Nuys Airport. I mean, you put a hangar up at Van Nuys. Hangars in Van Nuys for your Falcon Jet are very expensive. Van Nuys Airport is not supported by a lot of federal dollars. There's a lot of leaseholders in there. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. Quite frankly, the airport in Wilmington, North Carolina, as much as it's grown, modern aviation is here. Modern aviation sells a lot of fuel to transient aircraft because we're first port of entry coming back to the States. A lot of hangars have been built for aircraft. We've got a lot of leaseholders on the property that support the town. A lot of cargo facilities. It's those FBOs, it's those cargo facilities, it's those hangars that support the airport. Most airports just couldn't survive on commercial traffic alone.
And it's those ultra wealthy private flyers that are literally taking their money and putting it into the hands of those local communities.
But a private flyer is my next door neighbor who is a real estate developer. And he's got projects going up in Charlotte. He's got projects going out up in the mountains of Asheville. And he's got a 182. And he flies his own Cessna 182 to his real estate projects. So to sit there and say it's an unnecessary evil or it's a quote unquote luxury, it's ridiculous. And then look, the guy brought up Elon Musk and how much Elon Musk uses his jet. Let's just put this in perspective. Tesla employs about, 5, 6, 7, 10,000 employees. SpaceX employs a whole bunch of people. Starlink is one of the main reasons Ukraine has not been overrun by Russia. Let's see, Twitter. He was a big investor in PayPal. You know what? I don't know how you could do all that without a jet. And quite frankly, I want Elon Musk and his security team on Elon's airplane, not trying to go through security at Sacramento, as a major disruptor. That's just the way it comes down to. Business aviation. There's a lot of goods about business aviation, and I think to look at it through one lens of, it emits, these jet engines emit carbon. Look, it's a small price to pay. Everything comes with a price. And I think the benefits of business aviation, outweigh the negatives by a factor of 10.
No, I agree, and I like the point of, you brought up the emissions. I like the point of innovation. Mm-hmm. Whether the obstacle ahead of us is the carbon footprint, or the obstacle ahead of us is how do we safely get from New York over to London, like over an entire ocean, or how do we fly, at night and be safer? Like all of these challenges that is set forth in front of aviation leads to progress. It leads to innovation, and to shut that all down, it's not just going to have a negative impact on, the people that are flying, but it's going to have a negative impact on all the people that benefit from that trickle down, of innovation.
Look, business aviation, the need has been recognized. NBAA. I go to these conferences, Corporate Jet Investor, and you sit there and everybody says, hey, look, we need to develop more SAF. Okay. There's not enough, you can't develop enough SAF to support all the airlines. But if all the business jet operators decided to use, SAF, it makes a difference. Or if you want to use carbon offsets, heck, you could set up little companies down in Brazil and say, hey, for every few bucks we get, you buy in carbon offsets, we go replant some of the rainforest. Yeah, we go restore some of the rainforest. Okay, you're making a difference in the world, right? Yeah, business aviation operators are definitely thinking about this stuff, and it's a good thought process. But they're already paying $8-9 for fuel in some areas. They pay a 7% fuel tax on that. They're paying federal excise taxes. So to sit there and say it's piggybacking off the airlines is not necessarily an accurate statement.